Hello everyone. This story is about, what if God-like Naruto was able to feel other people's emotions and fall in love with Mei and Anko? Please like, share and subscribe for more. Also check the other fics I've uploaded. Now let's start. It had been another week, and the bridge was finally complete. Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari stood on the symbol of hope that Tazuna had built, saying their goodbyes to Team 7 and Naruto. It didn't feel like it, but 2 weeks had passed with Kakashi and his team, and Naruto now knew another method of teaching, something he had already learned from his time under the Kopinin. Kakashi had always said that teamwork was the most important thing in a successful squad, and he stuck with his ideals even when teaching genin. Like the silver-haired jonin, Naruto also thought that teamwork was very important. When he became the captain of Rohan, the rules of teamwork still applied, as they most likely still did. Hyuga saw both Naruto and Kakashi as two of the greatest shinobi in Konoha, and even though she never said it out loud, she strove to be like them. They were her role models, and she wouldn't change the way the team worked just because she was appointed the new leader. After what happened on the bridge, Naruto publicly executed Gato of Gato Company. Both of his arms were broken, his face was smashed in, and a kunai greeted his brain from his throat. It was ugly, it was brutal, sickening even, but it was something Nami no Kuni needed. None of them could admit it, and no one could do it, their moral codes weren't as flexible as a shinobi's. Thankfully, Naruto was able and willing, his Lord Hokage's orders were absolute. When the strangled cries for help rang out, Naruto only had one thought in his mind, his talk with Choji. Like he told the young Akimichi, sometimes, shinobi had to do the hard, ugly things so that the innocent could keep their purity. The following week went by extremely fast. It was spent with Naruto observing Kakashi, secret late-night talks with Sasuke, and just hanging out with Inari. The boy really changed since he arrived. Gone was his dark, hopeless attitude, and in its place was a happy, cheerful young boy. Kakashi didn't really do anything different with his genin that Naruto hadn't already seen from him. Well, except for the fact that he was hugely easier on them than he was on Naruto or his ANBU team, but that was necessary. The only genin Naruto knew who could take that kind of training was Rock Lee, and only because his sensei was an extremist when it came to physical training. During the nights, Naruto would take Sasuke out into the forest, and the two of them wouldn't return until morning. Not even Kakashi fully understood what the two were doing out there, but he had an idea. He had most likely started the Uchiha's training. In Naruto's mind, there was no better time than the present, and Kakashi wouldn't be surprised if the boy had a second Tomo in one eye already. What was for certain was that Sasuke had started the training that would cause him to surpass all other Uchiha that came before him. When Naruto said he would do something, he would, no matter what, and he had promised Sasuke that he would turn him into a monster. It was only a matter of time now. At the moment, Naruto was staring at a smiling Inari. He had thought the boy might have wanted to cry, but what he felt from him right now, it reassured him that he had changed. Inari now understood what most never do. He now understood the true meaning behind hope, the true meaning behind strength. As Kakashi and the others said goodbye to Tazuna and Tsunami, Naruto and Inari didn't speak one word. The boy knew that words weren't needed. Everything was being expressed through their emotions. You gave of us hope. You took it for yourselves. Naruto couldn't help but smile. Inari was a man now. He no longer looked at the world the same. He saw how beautiful it was, and he would do so until he died. That was Naruto's true gift to Inari, to Nami no Kuni. Sight. It may sound ridiculous, stupid even, but those are the words of the blind. The eyes are useless if the mind cannot see. When it was Tsunami's turn to speak with Naruto, the blonde held out his hand. You know, you have an amazing family, Tsunami-san. When he felt the woman's emotions, he was stunned, which is why he didn't react fast enough to dodge her hug. I know, she whispered into his ear. And you are now a part of it. He just stood stock still, not knowing how to respond. You always have a home with us, Naruto-san. She smiled. Kakashi-san told me that you were an orphan. She ended the hug so she could look him in the eyes. Not anymore, she said firmly, you have a little brother, a second mother, and a grandfather in Nami. Her eyes made him feel like a child again. Always, she finished, her beautiful smile still on her beautiful face. Naruto couldn't do anything but nod his head. Those words. They made him feel awake. He had never felt awake outside of combat before, but here he was, receiving the kindest words he had ever heard. It was invigorating. It was a brief, fleeting thing, but it was there nonetheless. He had felt awake outside of battle, if only for a second. He took a deep breath, calming himself so that he could speak to Tazuna. You know, Naruto-san. He wasn't looking at the blonde, but at the bridge he had built. This isn't my bridge. He smiled. It's yours. Naruto felt the man's heart. You may not think that you're a hero, but it really doesn't matter what you think. He finally looked the young jonin in the eyes. It's what you do that defines you. He smiled again. And kid, you save people in more ways than one. He bowed to the blonde. Thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto smiled and nodded his head in thanks. You're welcome, Tazuna-san. As Team 7 and Naruto walked across the bridge, Inari finally spoke up. What are you going to name the bridge, Gigi? Tazuna smirked. This bridge is the physical representation of our hope, so the way I see it, it should be given the name of one of the bringers of hope. Inari smiled, turning his attention back to Naruto. That's when he whispered the name of their symbol of hope. The Great Naruto Bridge. Naruto and Kakashi stood in the Hokage's office, their leader sitting at his desk, listening to Kakashi give his report of the sea-turned-ranked mission to Wave. It wasn't all that surprising to their leader, seeing as he already knew of Gato. And he wasn't really troubled either, seeing as how both Kakashi and Naruto were there, especially the latter. After his senpai was finished, Sarutobi looked to his shadow, ready to hear his report. Before he began, Naruto gave the shadows of the room a look that every ANBU captain gave when they wanted others to leave. The two ANBU guards that watched the Hokage didn't even ask their commander before leaving the room. Nozomi Taicho was respected amongst the ANBU, even more so than Inu Taicho, and they all knew that if he gave them an order, it had the full weight of the Hokage behind it. Naruto began when they left. I encountered Yuki Haku, Momochi Zabuza's accomplice, and decided to spare him, for personal reasons. Kakashi looked at his Otudo from the corner of his eye. Then, after saving Tsunami and Inari from Gato's thugs, I sensed Uchiha Itachi's chakra signature. Hiruzen took his pipe into his mouth. Before he could raise his hand, Naruto snapped his fingers, lighting it for his Gigi from across the room. The Lord Third didn't even act like he noticed it. He just inhaled, like it was something that happened daily. That's how Naruto was with his Gigi, they trusted each other with their lives, and there was nothing that could change that. Naruto would die, would fight the death god himself if it meant saving his leader. Continue, the Hokage said. Naruto obeyed. With him was Hoshigaki Kisame. There was no need to give his title, not here. The blonde knew his commander knew exactly who Kisame was. Naruto never doubted his Gigi. Kisame challenged me to a game, sort of. He smirked. The fool thought he had greater chakra than me. His smirk changed into something a little darker. He directly challenged your shadow. Hiruzen smirked, already knowing what happened. So I let him see half of my true strength. I'm never alone, Naruto whispered. With his Sharingan, Itachi was able to catch a pair of eyes morph from blue to gold, and circular pupils became slitted ones. He was able to catch something he hadn't seen in 5 years. Naruto's monster smirk. His senpai was awake. God help them all. With his superb reaction time, Itachi was able to use one technique. Tsukuyami, he whispered. The sky turned a bloody red. The sun was replaced by the moon. Time itself was being manipulated in a way only those with powerful eyes could accomplish. So you've been using the eyes Shursui helped you acquire. Naruto sighed. Have they already begun to weaken? Itachi gave a dry smile, something few could claim to have seen since he always wore a stoic mask. Yes. My sight will completely leave me in a few years, but that should be long enough. He said with a hopeful voice. Oh, yeah, about that. Naruto's smirk was one that Itachi always knew brought ridiculousness. I've decided to take Sasuke under my wing. Itachi hoped he was wrong in where this was going. He will be my pupil, my right hand. The blonde gave off a terrifying aura, the feeling reaching Itachi even in his own world. His name will carry the same weight as mine by the time I'm done with him. Itachi just stayed silent, knowing his senpai hated being interrupted. I know you wished for him to be ignorant, to use his hatred against you to become strong enough to stay safe. He shook his head. I'm not going to let that happen. He's done staying in the dark. He's done being manipulated, even if it's for his own good. I will turn him into a monster, and together, we will rid Konoha of Danzo. The Uchiha wanted to argue, to plead for his wishes to be respected, but he knew it was useless. Naruto's words were absolute. When I think he's ready, he will know the truth. When I think he's ready, we will be rid of Danzo. And at the end of it all, my friend, you will take back your rightful place in heaven. Itachi could do nothing but listen to the words of the Kamikage. As of right now, you're under my command again. You'll be my eyes and ears in the Akatsuki. Itachi shook his head. And I don't suppose I have any say-so in the matter, do I? Naruto smiled, also shaking his head. Nope, not at all. Itachi sighed. Understood. Good. Again, Itachi could see Naruto's monster smirk. Now, take this to your leader, and let it be a warning to all of the Akatsuki. The blonde took in a deep breath. This might hurt, Itachi. Itachi gave him a confused look, not understanding what he meant. That was before the sky of the Tsukuyomi began to crack. What are you doing? Naruto's eyes closed for a moment, and when they opened seconds later, the eyes he saw in the real world greeted him. Itachi had never experienced fear like this. There was never a time when he felt sheer terror in his life. But when the ground of his creation began to shake, and the blood-red sky began to fall, he was sure that his senpai was not human. He was showing the world heaven, and he and Kisame were in the center of it. It should have been impossible, even for the Kamikage, but here he was, breaking out of the Tsukuyomi. The greatest genjutsu the world had ever seen was reduced to nothing by a single 15-year-old. And that's when he brought the might of a god upon Nami no Kuni. It only lasted a few seconds, but that was more than enough. When it was over, Naruto couldn't help but smirk at his handiwork. Both Kisame and Itachi, S-rank missing mean, were out cold, unable to take the pressure that was brought down on them. They were completely incapacitated, and he knew that the Akatsuki would think twice before challenging him. His work was done here, and now it was time for him to play with a demon. After debriefing with the Lord Hokage, Naruto and Kakashi went their separate ways. If you knew Kakashi the way Naruto did, you knew that he was probably on his way to the Memorial Stone. The Scarecrow always went there after missions to talk to his teammates that had already passed. He'd talk for hours about anything and everything, or just stay silent and keep them company. Kakashi was a man of his word, and even in death, he never abandoned his comrades. Naruto on the other hand decided to take a walk up the Hokage monument. Here, standing on his hero's, his father's head, he could think clearly. There was a lot on his mind. He wanted Itachi out of the Akatsuki as quickly as possible. He, more than anyone, deserved a place in Konoha. He wanted Sasuke to be at the point where he could be told the truth of his clan and Itachi. Every day Danzo still drew breath was infuriating. It was time for him to die. He wanted to be with Mei, to feel her soft skin against his once again. He sometimes dreamt of her beautiful auburn hair. She was always on his mind, and he hated himself because of it. He wanted to be with Anko, the way he knew she wanted. He could feel her, even outside of the village, all the time. He had synced with her, he knew her better than anyone else in the world. She was always on his mind, and he hated himself because of it. He wanted a lot of things, but he found himself in a very mortal-like position. He didn't know how to acquire what he wanted. Itachi needed to stay in the Akatsuki. Even though Naruto was most likely stronger than any of them, it was never okay to become arrogant. It would be unintelligent of him to just pull Itachi out. They needed someone on the inside. Sasuke needed this time to get used to Naruto as a mentor, so telling him something like Itachi killed his entire family for his village probably wasn't the smartest idea right now. Once Sasuke was ready, he would be told the truth about everything. Mei and Anko were the only things he wasn't sure about. How could he be with both of them? He wasn't delusional, women didn't just share. Two women accepting one man to love at the same time was something you'd read in a crappy smut story. This was real life, and he had no idea what he was going to do. He loved them both, and if he couldn't have them both, then he wouldn't have either of them. There was no way he could pick one over the other. And he didn't really know anyone he could talk to about it. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten in a while, and he was craving Hayate's food. That's when it hit him. Hayate had become very close to him, and had become someone he could trust. He needed another's opinion. He needed advice. He needed help, or he'd go crazy over it. Obstacles that he couldn't just blast through were a new and not very pleasing experience for him. His stomach growled again. He really needed to get home, for more reasons than one. So what do you think I should do? Naruto had spent the better part of an hour describing his conflicting emotions about the two women he loved. The two of them were sitting in the kitchen again, a common accruing place they conversed in. An empty plate lay in front of Naruto on the dining table they were sitting at. Hayate was a little blown away. He knew he was a lot closer to the blonde, but for Naruto to come to him for advice was something he didn't think would happen. Ever. It was strange, the special Jonin had always seen Naruto as a perfect soldier, someone who didn't have problems like this. And really, he didn't. Well, not until females came into his life. Well, to be honest, I have no experience in this kind of thing. He took a second to think. I've only ever loved one woman in my entire life. Yeah, I've had girlfriends before, but love was something that came when I was older and met Hyuga. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the way Hayate spoke about his Nachan. But two women at once. He looked hesitant. Please, just speak your mind. I want to hear what you have to say, no matter how brutally honest it is. The Uzumaki said. He really wanted to hear the man's opinion. Well, to me, if you fall in love with two women, then the second one should be the obvious choice. And why's that? Naruto asked. Because. If you truly loved the first woman, then you probably wouldn't have fallen in love with the second. Hayate finished. Naruto sighed, he'd have to show him then. May I show you something? He asked, holding his hand out. Hayate raised an eyebrow. Sure. He gave the blonde his hand. When their hands touched, images that he had never seen washed into his mind. Smells that he had never smelled floated around in his nose. Feelings he had never felt for women that he was never close to found their way into his heart. He could feel lips touch his own that he had never tasted before. It was the strangest thing in the whole world. It could be described in one word, it was love. Naruto had, somehow, shown his feeling for both Mei and Anko to the special Jonin, and he had never felt such strong, and very much equal, love before in his life. No, that was a lie. Naruto smiled. The link between the two was open both ways. When Yugao came up in Hayate's mind, all of the man's emotions for her came with it. Naruto was now absolutely sure that Hayate was the only man in the world who deserved her. His love for the Moonflower was just as much as Naruto's love for Mei and Anko. There was an understanding between the two that night. Hayate had Naruto's blessing, and he knew it. And Naruto had another brother, and accepted it. His family was about to get a little bigger. Looking into his eyes, Hayate knew what he needed to say to his soon-to-be brother-in-law. He smiled though, because he was sure Naruto already knew. Don't let either of them go. Ever. I won't. They're worth fighting for. I know. Naruto sat to the right of Hyuga Hinata, and to the left of Inuzuka Kiba. Akamaru, Kiba's Nin-ken, sat on top of his partner's head, and Aburame Shino sat to the right of Kiba. It had been a week since he had joined Team 8, and he loved every minute of it. Kiba was exactly like his wild sister, Hana, and they quickly became friends. Shino was quiet, the silently observed type, but he, too, couldn't hide from the bringer of hope. Then there was Hinata. Apparently, the Hyuga clan head wasn't as tight-lipped as everyone thought he was, because the first day Naruto met Kurenai's team, the young heiress had bowed deeply to him. And expressed her gratefulness to him for saving her from Kumogakure. After a few days though, he was able to develop a friendly atmosphere with her. What about you, Hinata? Kurenai asked, returning Naruto's attention back to the lesson she was giving. The Genjutsu mistress was a little different than the other Jonin the blonde had studied under. She was much like an academy instructor, teaching through theory first, and then practical training. What do you think a shinobi's greatest weapon is? Hinata took a moment to think. Naruto couldn't help but smile, the girl was really thinking about it. I think that dedication is a shinobi's greatest weapon. Kurenai smiled. And why do you think that is? Hinata pushed her pointer fingers together, something she rarely did. A shinobi needs to be dedicated to the life we have to live, and to their village, to grow strong enough to protect what they promised they would. Kurenai nodded. Okay, that's a good answer. And you, Kiba? Kiba puffed his chest. The partnership with your Nin-ken is a shinobi's greatest weapon. This time, both Naruto and Kurenai smiled. Although that's important for your clan, not all shinobi have Ninken partners. Hinata laughed and Naruto smiled. And you, Shino? A shinobi must always keep a calm and collected mind in every situation. The bug user answered with a stoic demeanor. Also a good answer, but like Kiba, and even Hinata, it's not always something every shinobi can accomplish. So what do you think it is, Kurenai-sensei? Kiba asked. Even Naruto was curious of what the woman thought. Like many, my opinion is that the will of fire is a shinobi's greatest weapon. She said with absolute certainty in her voice. Will of fire, isn't that something the Hokage always talks about? The Inuzuka asked, not knowing what his sensei was really talking about. Correct. The will of fire is something all Konoha shinobi carry within them. It's like a sun, constantly burning, lighting the way you should take. And just like the sun, even though you can't always see it, doesn't mean that it's not always there, because it is. Naruto agreed with her, but she was wrong. What about you, Naruto-san, what do you believe a shinobi's greatest weapon is? Some insight on what someone as powerful as you thinks would be very helpful to everyone here, even I. Naruto's response wasn't immediate. Words meant something with this team, it's how they learned. The will of fire is a very important concept that's, well, the very foundation of our village, but I think I have to disagree with you, Kurenai-san. Kurenai raised an eyebrow. Oh? Please, continue. Naruto looked to the sky for a moment, trying to find the best way he could express what he wanted. Well, he began, I believe that a shinobi's greatest weapon is balance. Kurenai gave him a look that urged him to continue. My sensei always told me one thing when he started training me. He always said to be wise in both heaven and earth. I didn't know what that meant for a long time, but when I finally understood, it made a whole lot of sense. And what exactly does it mean? Kurenai asked, genuinely interested in what he had to say. It means you need to train in both mind and body. It means you need to be balanced. If heaven is spiritual, then earth is physicality. Like using ninjutsu, you need equal parts in both to be successful. He decided to take it up a notch. Not a lot of people know a lot about yin and yang manipulation, but if you do, then you know that the spiritual half represents yin, and the physical half represents yang. I would think you'd know this, Kurenai-san, since you rely heavily on genjutsu. Kurenai nodded. Yes. I mostly use the spiritual half of the equation for my techniques. I thought as much. Naruto smirked. Most people know that yin and yang represent the balance of the world, and like the world, we need a bit of everything to be the greatest ninja we can be. Yin and yang, polar opposites, but the two are never greater than when they are together, used in equal amounts. Does that mean that you use yin and yang manipulation a lot? Kurenai asked. And that's when it hit him. It was right there in Jiraiya's teachings, under his nose the entire time. How didn't he see it sooner? I'm sorry, I have to go. I'll see you all tomorrow. He had to leave. He had to look into this more. His smile was seen by all of Team 8. He was about to create a new form of senjutsu. Today was going to be a good day. Another day had passed and Naruto was walking the streets of Konoha with Sasuke. The two of them had just finished a long training session, and were heading to Ichiraku's for some lunch. That's when they saw a certain little Sarutobi. Naruto and he shouted, running up towards the blonde. What are you doing? He asked happily. Naruto smiled. Just getting a bite to eat with a friend. He pointed at Sasuke. Sasuke, this is Sarutobi Konohamaru. Konohamaru, this is Uchiha Sasuke. Nice to meet you. The boy said politely. Naruto had been teaching the kid proper manners for a while now, and apparently they were finally sinking in. HN. Sasuke replied. Naruto still needed to work on the Uchiha. Sasuke knew exactly who the kid was, everyone in Konoha did. Can I come with you guys? Konohamaru asked hopefully. Naruto looked at Sasuke, silently asking if he didn't mind. The genin just shrugged, not really caring if the boy came along or not. Sure, why not? The Uzumaki said. Konohamaru's smile was huge, and he was so excited that he took off around the corner, eager to get to wherever they were heading. He was still a child, so he didn't really care if he didn't know where they were going. Naruto felt it before he saw it. Let me go, the young Sarutobi shouted at the person who had him by the neck of his shirt. Come on, Kankuro, just let the kid go, we have somewhere to be. A girl with blonde hair tied up in a strange, four-bun style, said. Hell no. Kankuro, a boy with purple face paint and an all-black outfit, said. This little runt needs to learn a lesson. He looked Konohamaru in the eyes. You shouldn't mess with people who'll kill you. Naruto agreed completely. I'm only going to tell you this once, Sunanin. Put him down. Now. Naruto said in a deathly silent voice that both of the Sand Shinobi managed to hear. And who the hell are you? Kankuro asked. Before he could answer, there was a kunai at the foreign ninja's back. Who he is doesn't concern you. You're on Konoha soil. Now, let the Hokage's grandson go before you're both executed by the Kamikage. Naruto wanted to smile. Sasuke's training was paying off. He was glad now that he taught him the Shunshin. He was a natural with it, this incident proving that. He had gotten behind the Suna Shinobi before either of them had time to blink. Why you're the Kamikage? Temari asked Sasuke, thinking that he was talking about himself. Sasuke actually smirked at the idea. No, I'm just a Konoha genin. Now that confused the Sannin. How could a genin be that fast? Naruto had felt this question on their minds and actually smiled. If they thought Sasuke was fast, they wouldn't know what to think when they met Lee. That kid was fast as hell when Naruto had first met him, and training with the Bringer of Hope only made him faster. He's the Kamikage. The Uchiha said, pointing at the blonde in front of them. Kankuro dropped Konohamaru, but Sasuke made no move to let him go. It's okay, Sasuke, you can let him go now. He smirked. Neither of them will try anything, right now at least. There was one emotion both of them kept feeling. Does he know? Yes. He knew, and he was not pleased. He'd wait, make them sweat a bit before he did anything. He needed all of the details, and the Hokage needed to be informed. These fools thought they could set Konoha ablaze? Naruto had a little saying that he loved to use. Death to all enemies of heaven. We apologize. We didn't know he was the grandson of the Hokage. Temari said, bowing her head. Who his family is doesn't matter. He is a citizen of Konoha, and if you touch any of my citizens, he began leaking out killing intent the likes of which they probably never felt before. It wasn't the huge, overwhelming kind, it was the kind that could strike fear into seasoned jonin with only a taste. Whether they are the lowest class or nobility, the Sunanin began to shake. I will take your soul as penance. Temari, Kankuro, you're a disgrace to your village. Ah, so the little Tanuki decided to show himself. Jigara. Kankuro stuttered. Naruto stopped leaking his killing intent so that the boy could actually speak. I was starting to think you'd stay hidden the whole time, Ichibi. Naruto said, enjoying the panic the others started to feel. So you know of Mother then? Gaara said without much surprise. Why is Mother scared of you? He asked, curiously. Mother always craves blood, but she doesn't want yours. Why is that? Naruto smiled. I'll tell you another time. He looked at Sasuke, who nodded at him. The Uchiha picked Konohamaru up, who had passed out from the killing intent from earlier, and shined away, getting the boy home. Right now, I think you should all get to your hotel rooms where you can't cause any more trouble. It wasn't a request. Gaara just stared at the blonde for a moment before nodding. Temari, Kankuro, let's be on our way. The three started to walk away, but before they got too far, Gaara turned towards Naruto. I'll see you soon, Bringer of Hope. With that, the three finally left. Naruto's face turned absolutely sinister. He was angry, incredibly angry. There were demons inside heaven. It was time to inform God of their trespasses. Indeed. He whispered. He looked upwards and to the right. To anyone but Naruto, there was absolutely nothing there. But there was nothing the eyes of the Kamikage couldn't see. He nodded, accepting the summons. Hiruzen had been watching the whole encounter with the Sand siblings from Sunagakure. He had initially been very upset with how the one named Kankuro had treated Konohamaru, but like always, his shadow was able to handle it. The deaths of the Kazekage's children might have started a war, but his shadow knew as much. The thing with Naruto was, he didn't want to start a war, not unnecessarily. But if there was to be war, then he could wage one all on his own. Konoha had an army killer, and his name was Uzumaki Naruto. There was no doubt in the old Sarutobi's mind that his shadow could end wars all on his own. And really, it wasn't as far-fetched as it sounded. It actually happened before. Namake's Minato was the prime example of this. Now, Hiruzen was not a censor like his shadow, but over the years, he developed a way of reading Naruto. Right now, he could tell that something was wrong. That's when Naruto actually looked at him, like he could see him through his seeing glass ball. He nodded his head, and wasn't surprised when his shadow nodded back. The message was clear. The two of them had much to speak about. It had been another week, and Naruto was enjoying a celebratory dinner with Team 8 plus Anko. The dinner was for the 3 genin getting into the Chunin exams, but Naruto could tell why Anko was here. The two of them were sitting together, enjoying the food and sake they were served. Naruto could see Kurenai sipping at her preferred vodka, speaking with Hinata. Kiba and Shino spoke a little, but the young Inuzuka was constantly stuffing his face with meats, so the conversations were short-lived. So what are you going to do now? Teach? Anko asked, taking another sip of her sake. To be honest, I have no idea. I was assigned to the teams to learn how to work with shinobi who aren't ANBU qualified. The Hokage might not even give me a genin team. He replied, also sipping from his sake cup. If you could choose, what would you want to do? She asked. Naruto smiled. I'd want to rejoin the ANBU, but that can't happen. I'm too well known worldwide to be a secret operative anymore. But besides that, I think I'd like starting up a little group outside of the operations unit, medical corps, and the ANBU Black Ops. Oh. So you have a dream, then? Good. I was starting to think you weren't human at all. Anko chuckled. Naruto laughed like nothing was wrong, but on the inside, he was starting to believe he wasn't human either. And after he discovered what he could do now, it honestly scared him. What about you? What's your dream now that the curse mark is gone? Naruto asked, deciding to push his worries to the back of his mind. Anko's expression darkened. I want Orochimaru's head. Naruto felt her hate for the traitor, and understood. I agree. Orochimaru has lived long enough. Anko looked at him, giving him a dark smile. She knew he could feel what she was thinking, but she didn't care. She wanted him to know. Naruto sighed. It was going to be a long night. Anko groaned at the light assaulting her eyelids. She hated the inconsiderate ball of heat at times like this. She was so comfortable, and she just wanted to stay where she was. This source of warmth was amazing. Her arms had been wrapped around it for a while now, and she wanted to stay that way. Her head was laying on something hard but soft, and very comfortable. She couldn't really remember what happened last night, but that didn't matter right now. Right now, all that mattered was this warmth. Wait. Last night. Naruto. Her eyes shot open, her heart almost stopping when she saw blonde hair. She pushed herself up to sit upright, finally seeing what she knew was there. Lying next to her with his arms wrapped around her body, one Uzumaki Naruto was there, shirtless. Looking at herself, she found where his absent shirt was. Why was she wearing his shirt? More importantly, how did his shirt fit her? Focusing on the more important of the two, Anko shook Naruto with her hand, marveling at how lean and toned he was. The blonde opened his eyes, smirking at the woman's confused look. Good morning, Anko. Did you sleep well? He asked, also sitting upright. Did we? She left the question in the air. Naruto shook his head in the negative. No, we didn't. He smiled. I walked you home last night after you got really drunk. When we got here, you wanted me to stay the night and wouldn't take no for an answer. He looked at his shirt she had on. That's when you started taking off your clothes. Anko had the decency to look sheepish. Then you realized that I was with you and got all embarrassed. I gave you my shirt so you would feel better. How does it fit me? She thought out loud. Oh, that's because of Jiraiya-sensei. It was a gift. It has a seal on it that fits the wearer on touch. That way I don't have to worry about growing out of it. Naruto answered. With that out of the way, Anko could finally focus. I'm sorry about last night. You were probably miserable. Naruto smiled and shook his head. Not at all. He got to his feet and stretched. I liked it, actually. He smirked, knowing how hard Anko was trying to hold back her blush. You know, most people would have taken advantage of a drunken woman. Naruto sighed. He could feel her heart. And I wouldn't have minded. He needed to tell her now, before this went any further. The longer he waited, the more he felt like he was betraying her. Anko. I need to tell you something. He started. Anko looked nervous, like she thought he felt her feelings, and didn't like them. You need to know that I really like you. Her face brightened a bit. No, that's not right. Anko, I love you. Anko was just silent, not trusting herself to speak. But I also love another. When those words left his mouth, she didn't understand what was going on. What? She asked in a confused tone. He sighed again. This was really hard for him to admit. When I was in Mizu no Kuni, I fell in love with the current Mizukage. Her emotions hurt him. You have to understand, with my ability to understand people, it's hard to keep my own emotions in check. When I met Mei, she was the first person I ever felt this way for. He knew how she was taking this, even without his empathy. But then I had to leave, and that's when I met you. I had no intention of developing these feelings for you, but when we synced, when I felt your soul, how couldn't I have fallen for you? He took in a deep breath. Why you? Anko tried, but stopped, still not able to fully speak. I know what I'm saying just sounds like another guy trying to get with as many women as he can, but I swear, on my Nindo, this is not like that. I never looked at women before I met Mei, and I never thought I'd fall again, until I met you. I have no idea what I'm doing or how to make it work, and it's killing me. I've never met a problem that I couldn't overpower. I'm so lost and I don't know what to do. Anko didn't, by any means, understand right now, but even she, in her shocked mindset, could see the confusion and uncertainty in his face. He wasn't lying to her, and that was something. I've never been close like this to anyone. I've never had a family, or many friends. I don't want to lose you, but at the same time, I don't want to lose her. He gave a sad laugh. I don't even know if she feels the same for me anymore, either. She could have moved on and forgotten about me. He closed his eyes. When I think about Mei, I hate myself every second of it. And when I think about you, I hate myself. Lately, I feel like my worst enemy is me. He shook his head slowly. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. She could see what he meant. He was pretty young. He had no experience, and probably didn't have too many people to talk to about it. Not many 15-year-olds did. She was still upset, but ever since she had met him at Shushuya's, it was like they were still synced, like she could understand him. He didn't know what to do. She hadn't met this Mei woman, but she could tell that he did care for her. And she knew he wasn't looking to fulfill a fantasy harem or anything, because if that's what he wanted, he wouldn't need the two of them. Plenty of girls wanted to be with the bringer of hope, and she believed him when he said he was a virgin. If sex was all he wanted, he would have had his way with her last night. She didn't like it, at all, but she could see where he was coming from. That didn't mean she was all for sharing him, but she would at least wait until she could meet this woman before she made her decision. She looked at him, knowing he had already felt her decision. When he nodded, she was grateful. Having to say it out loud would have been embarrassing. Anko sighed. Well, we can't do anything about it until I meet her, so I'm just going to act like she doesn't exist until then. I'm hungry, let's get something to eat. She gave him a giant smile, one that he knew all too well. It was a mask. No one could hide from the kamikage, and right now, he hated that fact. She was still hurt. And he hated himself for it. Even more. Four astral figures stood in a dark cave. One of the figures had purple, ripple-patterned eyes. Another had a pair of Sharingans. The third was female, and the fourth had shark-like eyes. The purple-eyed man spoke. You expect me to believe that a teenager incapacitated two of my strongest shinobi with nothing but the force of his chakra? We have nothing to accomplish by lying to you. The Sharingan-eyed man said stoically. I've warned you how strong the kamikage is. Maybe now you'll believe me. The kid's not human. I felt the chakra of a Jinchuriki before, and that was not normal, the shark-eyed man commented. You said he had a message for us. Let's hear it, the only female said. The Sharingan-eyed man looked their leader in the eyes when he delivered the message of the bringer of hope. Death to all enemies of heaven. This was all for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.